Jamie here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Friday, February 21st, 325 on this afternoon. I wouldn't call it Bloodbath Friday, but the market's taking on the chin. Rough session. It's not even like huge swings, wild movements, uh, crazy. So it's like been a slow. I wouldn't call it slow, but just a meltdown since the open. And then you start to look for catalysts for the move, and the consumer confidence number came in again weaker than expected. This is after 2 weeks ago was another bad data, and that I wouldn't say caused some of this, but that was some of the rationalization besides some of the moves. So hang on one second. Yeah, I mean, it's like once we get the moves like this, and there's no way to pinpoint the exact rationale or reason behind it. It's like, is it finally the tariff concerns or the uncertainty about around policy from the new administration, the tariffs? Was it earnings? Finally, the Magnificent Seven names starting to weigh that carrying the market and then not carrying anymore. I mean, there's all these different things. The inflation concerns we had. Coming into this year, you thought maybe there's gonna be a couple of Fed rate cuts. MicroStrategy's pulling here. Anyway, well, there's 34 minutes to the close. I'm not that I'm going to get any lottos here and ruin the weekend, but I was MSTR's had these moves last week. It didn't too much, but the previous two it did some pulls at end of the day. And here's 30. Well, it was 305. Now it's down to 302. And Intuit's selling off. Why is that? Big drop on Intuit. And of course I have that on my streamer. It's one of my names I've been negative on. All right. So anyway, we'll see what happens next week. For me, as much as I would love to get in my bear suit on and start getting loading puts get into the bomb shelter for the crazy bear market that's been supposed to happen for the last 15 years. If you've read the headlines, right? I mean, at some point it's going to happen, right? That 600 handle on the SPY is like so key to me right now. So we're holding that. I mean, we got down to 599 to change earlier, and then we've been huddling around that 599, 600, and back over 600. I'll probably just sit on my hands. There's also been reports out, right, that there's a new virus in Wuhan. I mean, number one, if that's the case, I mean, not good news. But then the other part of it is, I mean, did we learn things, right? I mean, when it's like if you get in a car accident back in the 1960s and you get thrown out the windshield and hey, probably should make seatbelts, right? And then now when you get in an accident, you don't fly through the window. And this again, I try to use analogies to explain things, but it's like if a situation like that scales out to to the proportions that it happened last time, I mean, shame on us. But so if in lieu of doing hedge puts, mRNA or even Pfizer calls possibly, and Moderna, big COVID name back when bonkers got billions of dollars, right? Uh, but it's way over. So you look at the chart, and I'm like, well, even just looking at the chart, maybe it's going to bounce. I don't have that conviction in regards to its fundamentals, but that could be a play into next week. But I'll probably just sit on my hands. But also, it's curious. I mean, yields keep going down. So if there was one catalyst that you think we might be able to push markets higher, would be the lower yields. The rates going down, despite the fact that the Fed's probably not going to cut rates this year. So, I anyway, riddle me this, riddle me that. Yesterday was financial selling off, momentum names that had outperformed this year. We're getting hit on the chin with the biggest moves to the downside. A little bit of continuation. Financials are actually holding up until the afternoon. So, as for now. So watching that 600 handle on the SPY, that's important. 598 is the 50-day moving average. Those would be two key areas. And then you start looking back at levels, and you start first couple weeks in January got all the way into under 580 on the SPY. So that would be, yeah. We'll have to see how Monday plays out. But I'm not going to sit here and get protection puts, FOMO, whatever you want to call it, just yet. And then I posted this in a watch list. Ryan Dietrich posted the start of year in regards to February performance. It's historically this back half of February is typically not the best in regards to performance. So you got historicals working against us, so on and so forth. What is up with Intuit? It just dropped like $10 in a matter of a couple minutes. All right, so that's overall market. Let's see, why is this not coming on here? Okay. And then some other, I mean, the VIX was hanging in there for a little bit and then finally spiked in the afternoon. That's up 20%, but then put in perspective, it's not even up at levels we saw at the start of the month. I mean, that's usually my famous fast last words on the on the VIX. Every time I seem to talk about it, it spikes, but always try to keep things in context. Yeah, and then what's this? Okay, and I don't know why I don't have yields, but anyway. All right, so that's that. So now individual names. So first Viking Pharmaceuticals. I actually still have a couple calls left from earnings, so I'd lock most into the report, um, and then of course nothing, no catalyst, no update that could be construed bullish. The stock kind of fested around, came under pressure despite some upgrades, which has been happening all the time with analysts. And then about 10:30, there was uh, I don't know a big call strike, $33, 33 strikes on the weeklies. Over 5,000 contracts came out, like 1034. Stock was trading like $32, yeah, 31, 32. And then boom, about 12 o'clock, there was a rumor. I haven't even seen a confirmed link saying that Pfizer's in talks with Viking via JP Morgan on a possible M&A. Who knows? The thing is with Viking, you can kind of create that narrative, that story that, hey, there's a possibility. So just the specter of that alone, and you see the stock going bonkers. As much as I want to add some into next week, I'll probably sit on my hands. And then they're just off the earnings. So, but interesting name nonetheless. I'm like, wow, maybe this continues to run to the end of the day. I can cash out the rest of my calls. But there was a little bit of premium for a minute, and that was it. But that's a Viking. And then some of the names I'm in this week. So, obviously Teledoc, which has been a great for profits up until like Monday. And then it's just been taken on the chin for almost ever since. They report earnings Wednesday. So, I still have the freebie March 15s. I had those March 20s. Uh, you know, I, I was trying to get some Aprils. I'll probably just sit on my hands. Another thing too, like if over the weekend we start hearing more about this thing in China, right? You would have to maybe some of these COVID names get a slight bid, and Teladoc's one of those names. Surprising it didn't blink an eye on the news. So, but either way, they have earnings next week, so maybe that'll be the kick in the butt it needs. I mean, you take a look. Start of February, the stock was under $10, so we'll see how that all plays out. And same with Redfin, no news, no catalyst. And despite yields going down, you would think, again, the housing market, all it needs is a little hope in regards to possible mortgage rates continue to go down, and boom. So also Redfin reports earnings next week. So I'll just continue to hold the calls I added early this week. Uh, and then iRobot. And, iRobot's not going to report earnings until in the middle of March. So we'll have to, let's kind of wait and see. I'm just going to hold on to the March strikes that I added. Disappointing today on Win, right? So you had overnight, Hang Seng was up nearly 4%, and then you saw Baidu and Baba, and you have a Cohen with position in Baba. So you have all these things working, and you look at these names. It was like how long was I saying it in regards to these China names? Only a matter of time before they start to run. So my favorites like NetEase, the one that hasn't really got going is Baidu, and they just had earnings just disappointing. And yeah, it's tough to trade that one for catch up. Take a look at PDD. I mean, what was it? Only a couple weekends ago that they were going to shut down U.S. Postal Service for shipments under $600, and I was supposed to destroy Timu, right? I mean, that was, and I think the stock was under 110 at that point, and boom, that's in the 130s. Um, I like the play in China. The area has been oversold for a while. I think you have to think those are going to rally. I like to play via Win. So that's Win, but disappointed. I had the last of my 95 strikes. Could have got out for over 200% yesterday. I was watching. I was waiting. I thought maybe 96, 97 today. Obviously, the market didn't cooperate. And then last but not least, if the market continues to tumble next week, so I was talking about financials. That's been one of the sectors. It was just at highs on Wednesday. Names like JP Morgan, Goldman Spectacular. So JP Morgan might be a name I just get some spec puts on. Also, MasterCard or Visa, right? Those are names I always look for hedges on. You take a look at MasterCard and Visa. I mean, they're almost been oblivious over the last pretty much this year. And if you take a look at MasterCard, hit 575 highs at right near the end of February, and then it's been chopping ever since. So it's going to pick a direction. If the market fades next week, you got to think MasterCard, maybe it's going to come down to 540. So that'll be a position I look on the hedges. And then, I'm still cautiously optimistic here. So if we hold 600 on a SPY, I don't know. There's a lot of reasons, right? That especially over the weekend, you read a lot of reasons. It's going to be more egg headlines, right? It's going to be more about inflation. It's going to be retail sales getting taken. Just you had the Walmart earnings, retail sales numbers last week, then consumer confidence today. So I mean, you start doing putting that all together, and it's like an ingredients that make a good story for sell off. So I can't rule that out, but if 600 holds here, I'll hold into next week, and then we'll see what next week brings. Anyway, that's it, folks. I'll be back. Let's have a great afternoon. Rock and roll.